Come find out 10 things you need to know about Blackstone Fortress in hopefully 10 minutes.
Spiking bits.
Welcome back, Hobby Maniacs. Today we're talking Blackstone Fortress. A very, very hyped game from Games Workshop. It's $150. It's coming out maybe a week before Thanksgiving, maybe Thanksgiving, Black Friday weekend here in the States. Kind of unsure exactly when it's coming out. Heard two different things from retailers and Games Workshop themselves. Regardless, it will be out very shortly. It'll be in everybody's hot little hands, and you'll be able to either play with the miniatures in 40K, as there is a whole pamphlet on 40K rules. You've probably already seen them. We published them here on the site. They're all over the internet here at this point. And also, you can use them in the game itself. But today, we're going to unbox the game itself. We're going to show you some of the things you need to know. We're going to put together what seems to be everybody's favorite miniature out of this, the Imperial Robot, show you just how big this bad boy is. Spoiler alert, he's on a 32 mil base, so he's actually not that big, but he looks pretty cool. So let's jump right into it and keep this video short. So first off, this game isn't gonna be for everybody. Now, you may go in and split it with your buddies so you can get some of the miniatures, but to be quite honest, the game itself is more akin to a kind of a cross between Warhammer 40K, a board game, and D&D altogether, where there's interactive storytelling elements and things like that. So first off, this game is gonna be encompassing. It's probably gonna be something that needs to be played over multiple sessions, just like a D&D adventure over 8 weeks, 6 weeks, or something like that. But there are some single play modes that you can do, and there is ways to pause the game as well if you need to take a break for a holiday or something like that. The second thing you need to know is that this is a little different, and it's an all-encompassing game. If you played Silver Tower, Warhammer Quest Silver Tower, that was the Age of Sigmar kind of Warhammer Quest feel to things. That game itself is way simpler than Blackstone Fortress. And in much ways, you can draw similar parallels to how Age of Sigmar was taken and developed into Warhammer 40K, or Warhammer 40K was developed by taking parts of Age of Sigmar and working it into its own unique game. And that is very similar to what happened in Blackstone Fortress. And you can notice similarities between Silver Tower, but also things that are unique and very much 40K in this game here. But don't get it twisted. This game is all-encompassing. It is complicated, and it is going to take a thorough block of time to dig through, set up, and also play each and every adventure in it. When it comes to the box itself, it's everything you would typically expect to see from Games Workshop. It's a super heavy, high quality, probably UV coated box right here that definitely is very shiny. It's super heavy. It's got all sorts of components in it. When you flip it over, you can see all of the pictures of the miniatures that you can put together and paint, and some ideas, and all of the contents right here. It's roughly, I think it was 44 different miniatures, all the books, all of the game tiles, the cards, the dice, everything you need, the cards, or the player cards themselves, everything you need to play the game, all nice and neat, plus a sample chapter from Blackstone Fortress, the novel from Black Library. Now, something they recently started doing here a couple box sets ago is they put this divider, which also doubles as a poster, in here so that the sprues don't mash into parts of the rule set or the cards or anything like that, and which is, kind of the value when it comes to things like this. Now, what value is in here is basically in the miniatures, or you could say from the gameplay contents here. Now, the miniatures themselves, we've seen these sprues ad nauseum. I'm going to put one together. We're going to put the robot together. Supposedly, these are pretty easy push fit, so we're going to see how easy that is right there. You can check out the site for more pictures of all that. But once you open it up, you kind of get a feel for how everything's going to come. All the decks are kind of sealed. And your initiative deck. This is the hidden vault envelope. This is what you're trying to get to. This is your ultimate goal over several sessions. to get to this right here. It's going to take a while. You've got your dice, which are really interesting, all your bases, your stasis chamber bags here, which you can, depending on how many, times of the game you're going to play, or if you have multiple players with multiple upgrade cards, you're going to want to put them on ice. That's basically like hitting a pause in the game. This is something that was really interesting, and we're going to talk more about that in the setup here. And then at the bottom is all of the punch-outable card, the tokens, you have to assemble the activation track, all of the ships and everything. That's where you go to re-up, re-equip, and re-armor before you venture back into the Blackstone Fortress. The fourth thing you need to be aware of here is the amount of resource material that you're going to have to access when you play this game. Because it isn't just one rulebook, it's flipping between multiple rulebooks to try to figure everything out and then reference like what happens at this phase and things like that. So you're going to need these three right here. You need the combat, the rules, and then the precipice for at the end. And you constantly flip between the rules and the combat phase, the combat stuff, to kind of see what's going on. Now, background is just your straight fluff, anything you would expect in a rulebook or a codex book or something like that. In normal 40k, in data sheets, this is the book that actually has the rules for Warhammer 40k in general in it, and along with the points cost. But like I said, this stuff's already been seen before, and we've broken that down already, and we'll probably continue to do so on the podcast as well. Now, there isn't a quick reference guide per se to set everything up in here, though they do give you some reference material. They're like, hey, set it up, set the cards up just like in this picture, and then everything kind of lays out like this, and there's your chamber right there. I forget what that's called, the turbo lift, for lack of a better term. But they do walk you through the setup of the whole board, and they walk you through everything. Or it's a Maglev transport chamber is what it is, and you can summon them. It takes an action, and it's easy to do, and it kind of signals the end of the battle in some regards, and that's where enemies come from. And we'll show you an example kind of combat, how it's laid out and stuff here in a sec. But just be aware that there is a quick reference guide. It did come with retailers to set up like to run people through like a quick little combat scenario, but it doesn't give you everything you need. You're going to want to start here and kind of go through and lay it all out, and then as you progress and there's combat and things, and to set up and actually fight combat and do the whole initiative tracker, you're going to need to flip to this book here. Now, why they didn't kind of include them, I could see the benefits, and I kind of like the idea of being able to flip here and have two different pieces of material instead of flipping, kind of like in a 40k when you're flipping, you see the rules or the data sheet for something, you got to flip to the back of the book to get the points. So I kind of like that, but it's also, I'm not sure because I can't compare it to what we don't have. So I think it might be a good thing, but just be aware that you're going to have to flip through several different pieces of reference here as you play the game. So the fifth thing that you need to know is that, judging by the 3-book reference, there is a long setup. There is a long setup curve to this, and I kind of showed you in the rulebook there how it's all going to start. But once you actually start doing encounters and things, you're going to hit, and you're going to have to deploy out the map tiles and kind of set up all those maps and things, which is kind of exciting to build the board and have fun with it. But overall, the setting just the game itself up and keeping track of things is a little bit of a chore. You'll have an initiative deck here with the players here that you're going to have, but you also have the hostile groups, which will kind of be exactly the same as what is on the combat scenario. So there might be 4, there might be 3. In a lot of cases, there's at least 3, and sometimes just 2. But you'll see where once you hit these, you'll flip the cards here. And these are just low-level encounters. You're just farming at that point. You're not going to play against the Chaos dudes and the Beastmen and stuff. You're going to get the Urguls and the Spindle Drones and the low-level Renegades and things like that until you work your way up and you hit these specific scenarios where they're going to start mixing those into the encounter deck, which is right here. So everything you're going to need is right here, and it flips through and you kind of play, and there's a scenario. And you can do cool things like you can do covering fire, and there's other mechanics where you can switch the order of things and loop guys around if you have action points available. And there's ways to kind of work the system to protect your explorers and not just get boned on it. But again, there's definitely an increasing level of complexity here, which may be good. It seems to be fine, but initially there's definitely a high learning curve. And then here's the player card right here that we'll talk about shortly. Now, when it comes to the character card, you are in control of these characters, and you are going to do a roll to get your action dice right here. And you can also borrow the Destiny dice from the board here. Let me show you where those are. So here's where the community pool of dice is, and you put doubles up here just to keep them. There's a little bit of a differential between those and regular dice that anybody can use right here throughout the Explorers. So everything has a range in hexes, which you can see here. So ranged weapons, obviously you're going to have a 2 to 3 inch range, sometimes 4 up. And close combat stuff's going to happen at range 1 of a hex. You have to be adjacent. And there's cool rules like a character can move back out of a hex that's adjacent to somebody, but then they can't move into a hex that's next to them. You have to go around. So there's a little bit of an attack of opportunity mechanic there that seems to make sense. So there is some realism here, and for the level of complexity, that kind of makes sense. These are going to allow you to spend, or the community dice, to activate different things. For instance, like, hey, I want to activate the pistol and the rapier. Okay, cool. So I'm going to spend, well, and really you should probably spend the 1+ dice over on the community pool that we just showed you and save this one here. Once you do that, you're going to roll one of these funny looking dice here, which are really just a way of saying roll a 3 up, a 4 up, or a 5 up, depending on the die here. Like this is D6 with only 2 successes. One is a crit, one isn't. This is a D8 with 2 critical successes, 2 regular successes. And this is a D12 with, I think, 4 critical successes and 4 regular successes and 4 blanks. So a success is whether it's crit or not, who cares at that point, right? But there's just different odds on the dice instead of just rolling a D6. And I can see why they did that because, hey, D6s, there's so many D6s here between all the dice, there needs to be something different. So at first I was like, wow, that's way more complicated, but now it's starting to make more sense. Criticals will activate special effects on your characters and things right down here. So once you want to do an action, you would just spend a die. Okay, I'm spending a die. And then you would roll the appropriate dice here. So on a range of 1, I need a 1 up. Okay, hey, I missed. Rats. All right, what else do I want to do? And you would just kind of go on and so forth right there. Very similar to Silver Tower. Now, there is, once you finish activating, you still have dice, you can actually use them for Overwatch attacks when things come at you, which is different, like I said, from Age of Sigmar, or from, Silver Tower, so that kind of explains a lot of that. Once you become inspired, you basically level up, just like in a Shadespire or Warhammer Underworld. So there's a lot of different mechanics coming together on this game to form all these different, like, little conditions and things like that. Killing stuff will get you inspiration points, which allow you to inspire. So the more wounds you have, you need to roll equal to or under on a d20. So if you kill a lot of dudes, you probably just got an inspiration point right there, which kind of makes sense. So that's, in a nutshell, how the characters work. And you saw on the activation track how they will activate, but there's ways to manipulate that to try to either get glory or get inspiration and pick those fights, or perhaps to stay alive if you're hurting. Once you start taking wounds, you'll cover up these spaces and you won't be able to get more dice. If you take grievous wounds, those can't be healed, and then at some point, well, you're just dead, and that's it for that scenario. So, be careful. It's a dangerous world out there. So to be honest, those were both points 6 and 7, showing you the card and showing you kind of how the dice and activation sort of work, so the mechanic to how things work. To actually create or kick down the door, so to speak, on a room or a chamber in Blackstone Fortress, you have to flip an exploration card, and whoever's the hero is the person in charge of this. So you're going to flip an exploration card, and you may get something like this, which is a combat scenario where you set up all the tiles in this manner. This one's an ambush, so basically you're right in the thick of it. It's happening. These things are set up. You're already on the board, and you just kind of go at it, and there's a lot of times additional text and things. There is just your traditional combat where you're going to kind of pile out of the Maglev, which is over here, and then just kind of wander around the chamber and do certain things. Now, I'm going to show you on the board what some of these symbols mean and different things here in a second. Or there could be a challenge. So you don't even get off the Maglev, I don't think, and you just kind of do these things. Sometimes you have to kick down the door. You literally have to cut open the door. Or you just do things. So whatever it is, it could be literally anything, but you shuffle these up and you kind of flip them. So a scenario or, you know, a session could be multiple of these, and you could work through multiple chambers, and that's why they have that stasis bag, so you can start saving things in case you have to put the game on pause, because you might not get through the whole exploration deck, you know, that session. So this is your typical game board. I just showed you this layout. It's just slightly cantered to the right. This is the Maglev Chamber up here in the top left, which was in the bottom left of the card I just showed you. And you can see how it's all set up and things like that. It's cut off a little bit at the bottom, but that's not that big of a deal. So the heroes will come out of here. These are going to give you cover. These little white kind of lines will give you cover, and there's specific rules on how you measure through things and whether you can see, like you can see straight down, but you can't see if it trips the corner. Like, so if you're parallel, you don't give cover, but if you're perpendicular, it does give cover, or excuse me, the other way around. If you're parallel, it gives cover, but perpendicular does not give cover. It's kind of wacky, but they explain it all in the rulebook. Here's those potential for bad guys here. And you can kill bad guys, and bad guys can die. And then there's a reinforcement, which is kind of wonky, and it might not always happen, but the bad guys could come back. And when they come back, they come through these chambers. And there's always chambers at the different parts of the board, and these are also where you can signal another maglev, because you can't exit here. You have to go through and you have to signal these maglevs to get out of there. But also the enemies use these as reinforcements too, so they come in and then they set up either closest, or they run, or they initiate a charge. There's like an instinctive behavior chart for all of these things. But this is just a general look at the very first board. So you can see there's some cover, there's some blocked line of sight, that's what these red things are, and then there's some corridors that you just move through that are basically safe because they block a line of sight right there. And what unboxing wouldn't be complete without a build part or an assembly part of one of the models, or all the models in the kit here. So here's the one sprue with the Imperial robot that everybody seems so smitten with, the man of iron, the man, the myth himself, Mr. Before all of the things and all of the time, older than, or not quite as old as the Emperor, but still pretty old. There he is right there, and all the different parts. We're gonna slap him together and just show you how easy it is once you clip it off the sprue to actually assemble these models. So truth be told, I've actually already assembled this and unassembled it because it was literally that easy. Now, you are going to want to clean up some of the flash along the edges here. It's pretty significant. They didn't do a whole lot of work hiding the flash lines because these aren't true multi-part kits. But again, you get what you pay for in that regard, you know, when it comes to Games Workshop stuff. So like I said, it goes together super easy. The front half just strangely enough attaches right here, and you just push it together. It's actually very, very flush. Like, it hides the mold lines right there. I was pretty impressed with that. I do like that, but you still are going to need to trim it quite a bit. This is kind of like a two-part thing, which I thought was really neat, how the grill goes over the power pack right here and creates a little bit of a three-dimensional effect. Boom. And that's pretty neat because you can see down in there. And then back here, this is probably a part that you're going to want to glue, but you don't necessarily have to, because it lines up with the ammo feed right here, the ammo hopper. But as you see, as I kind of squish it together and put a little bit of pressure on it, it lines up pretty flush back there. There's just a little teeny gap, but once you kind of put a little pressure, gentle back pressure right there, it is just fine. And then this one as well, the arm has a power coil that, while just to get these things put together and started, it really might not be that big of a deal to have the gap right there, but you're gonna eventually want to probably glue that together right there. It's just so you have that extra kind of support. But once you get all that together and slap him on this 32 mil base, he is pretty much good to go. And like I said, he's fairly well detailed. I mean, he isn't quite as good as a multi-part kit as you would expect, but nice detailing work. You can see there's his name. You got all the ammo belt feed right there, the lines, all the pistons and things in the back. And like I said, that depth back there. Now, how does he compare to a normal size model? Air quotes. Well, here's an Orc Boy, just to give you an idea of how he stacks up to an Orc Boy. And well, he's a little small. And let's see if we got a Space Marine around here somewhere. I'm sure we do. So here he is, normal size Space Marine on a 32 mil base. So he's slightly taller than a Space Marine. So there's still hope to have some really cool looking robots out at some point from Games Workshop, which I feel like at the end of the day is kind of what this box might be all about. So overall, like I said, this is a great game if you want to put the time investment into it, or you're just high off new minis. This is for you. This might be a great test bed for new miniatures from Games Workshop. As we saw with Silver Tower, tons of new miniatures that were first seen in that have come in their own lines now. We saw Deepkin in there. The Mistweaver Saya, I believe, was a Deepkin. Also, the Dracoith Chieftain was in there. A female model came out for the last campaign for Age of Sigmar, and now we're seeing a whole warband of those come out in Warhammer Underworlds too. So, and those are just the ones off the top of my head. I guess there's Free People and all sorts of different things in there as well. So in the future, you know, we may see a lot more things from Games Workshop that were originally in here. So as far as design goes and ideas and inspiration, this box set is great for that. If for the casual player that may not have, you know, 3 to 5 friends to play this with to a dedicated session type schedule, this box may not be for you, unfortunately. So that pretty much concludes this. I could see in the future we'll see maybe some Kill Team boxes where they come with all the accessories and the player cards and things like that, similar to what we saw with Warhammer with Kill Team Commanders even. Maybe a type of box that comes with Kill Team rules for these models, and also all of the character cards and things to go in this box for a price point of $35, very similar to Kill Team Commanders, I would imagine. So look for more expansions on the way that are playable, and perhaps Kill Team rules for all of these heroes, maybe even a Kill Team rules pack in the near future, depending on how Blackstone Fortress does. So that's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed our unbox and review and 10 things in hopefully 10 minutes. I really tried on this one. I hope it's 10 minutes that you need to know about Blackstone Fortress. So make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you can be the very first to like and comment on all our great videos here on the channel.
Spiking bits.